Check 1 2 1 2. We're good to go. Okay. Hi everybody. How's it going? Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Bonjour.
Welcome. My name is Jeremy Singer. I'm a digital producer at Entertainment Tonight Canada, and we're about to begin the Discoverability Summit panel titled "Content Creation for Everyone: The Ease of Personal Programming." In 2016, we really couldn't be in a better position to create our own content. As many of you know, we have access to so many exciting platforms today, not to mention so many new devices. And as a result, it's never been easier for unknown entertainers to find that audience online. But here's the question: how do you stand out? How do you stand out in a sea of abundance? Well, this panel is going to feature some talented artists who understand that momentum in digital entertainment, and they know how to be discovered in an online world filled with cats and personal opinion and shareable content. So, joining us, we have Justin Lynch. He is the head of business development and operations at Next Time Productions. They are the producers behind the mega YouTube franchise Epic Mealtime, which completely revolutionized the YouTube landscape, partially thanks to bacon strips, if you don't know that. We have Steve Anderson. Steve is the founder and senior strategist of the award-winning digital rights and civic engagement organization Open Media. Open Media has led the largest online civic engagement campaigns in Canada, engaging over 500,000 Canadians. And we also have Victoria Fenner. Victoria is a radio broadcaster turned podcaster. She's the executive producer of the Rabble Podcast Network. That is a division of the Rabble.ca, where she continues to explore ways that broadcasting and podcasting can basically work together. Guys, thank you so much for being here today and lending your authoritative voices. I'd like to begin by talking about the state of personal programming today. When you look back, let's say, 5 to 10 years compared to now, what are some of the immediate differences that you see? Justin, you want to start off?
I'll say there's definitely a lot more options to distribute your content. We've noticed, obviously, we started in 2010. There's relatively few channels with millions of subscribers back then, and now there seems to be lots of places you can put your content, different platforms, whether it be YouTube or Vine. I saw Amazon just announced they're doing a video direct service where they're sort of, I think, competing directly with YouTube. There's other platforms like Vessel. You can do video content on Facebook. So I think everyone's sort of getting into the, video game now. So much more opportunity to put your content out there, as well as better ways to monetize it as well.
Yeah, I think that one of the big changes is now it's quite a bit easier to build a community, so that you're not just broadcasting out, but you're kind of having a conversation, bringing people into your media project, and in that way, people are really broadcasting out for you, like that. That in a way, like building that community, is probably your best asset as a media organization now. So I think that's a huge difference from 10 years ago.
And I think that the quality is getting better. Back in 2005, when I first started doing a podcast with the Rabble Podcast Network, we were one of the first ones out of the gate. iTunes didn't even exist at that point. And what I was hearing with podcasts were this whole thing about, wow, we can do this ourselves, but no idea about the craft. And I would put on my community media hat, which is, this is so good, and people are having get access to the tools, but then I would also put on my public broadcasting hat and go, can't they learn to edit? So it's good to see the quality coming up, but yet at the same time, that also means a whole bunch of other things for people who are entering the game as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just introduce these two individuals that just decided to jump on stage. This is the AB family. They focus on hilarious, family-friendly entertainment to an online audience of millions, not to mention across a variety of platforms, from Vine to YouTube. From myself, I'm going to address you as Papa B and Mama B. Is that correct, or would you like to?
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you. Hi, guys. Sorry for being late. We're suburban. Yeah, we're in the burbs, and Bathurst was horrible, and we don't really come down here too often. So
it's all good. Wednesday morning, that happens. We were just starting off by asking about the state of personal programming over the past 5 to 10 years, and think about as far back as what you can remember it beginning as compared to today. What are some of the differences that come to mind?
I mean, back in the days, you had to wait for 8 o'clock for your favorite show to come on, and now that's just a ridiculous thing to think about. You actually have to get together this TV and wait for the show, and now you Netflix it. You go on Apple TV, you can search it on YouTube, and there's no waiting. So it's that demand, that time to just pick whatever you want to watch, whenever you want to watch it. That's the big difference for us now.
Absolutely.
And I used to be the channel changer too when I was a kid. So.
Can I jump in at order here?
Absolutely, yeah.
One thing I missed before is just the lower barrier to entry. Like for me, I first got into my work and making media kind of broadly defined as I saw an issue that was really important to me. The issue was net neutrality and the future of the internet. And I thought, okay, well, I know a little bit. I know how to use Windows Movie Maker. And so I made this remix documentary video. I'm not going to tell you the name of it because no one should ever look at it. But it was good enough and it hit at the right moment that it went viral. And then an organization quite quickly after picked me up, and then they taught me how to make media, and I made more professional media, and then things went from there. And so that's the kind of that low barrier to entry where almost anyone can kind of pick something up and get started, and maybe it won't be good at the start, but they can kind of, the open internet is sort of the best training ground we could have, and that's really crucial for the future of the industry.
Yeah, now it's really just about the content. If you have the content, you can push it out there. And if one day one piece of content doesn't work, your viewers will forgive you as long as your next piece of content is okay. And that's what we do with our channel. We don't really focus on one piece of content. We don't do just daily vlogs. One day we'll do a funny skit, another day we'll do a vlog, or we'll do a cooking video. And sometimes our vlogs don't do well, but the next day a cooking video will do really well. So that's the thing for us, is as long as you have content, you don't have to worry about anything else.
On that notion of viral videos, I think it's a good transition to talk about viral videos as a topic. The list of stories on, let's say, YouTube, they go on and on, from the double rainbow guy to David after the dentist. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you Google that after this panel. But what do you think the key is to creating this, viral content? Do you guys think that there's a recipe by now, or is it still in 2016 just, is it a right place, right time, trial and error?
I wish there was a recipe because we do it for every video. We've often made content we thought, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to blow up, amazing, this is so cool. And we put it up and just lackluster response, And then we'll do another video and sort of not even really think about how many views it will get, and we'll just get shared like crazy, and it'll pick up all the steam, picked up by the media sites. So I think there's a lot of luck involved. The one thing I will say is that if you do make something that becomes viral, whether it's topical or something like that, you need to capitalize right away. I mean, we were ready in 2010 when our video, we made a pizza with a burger and a couple friends, and if you watch that video now and you see what our videos look like now, it's changed so much in terms of the quality, like you mentioned. But that day, Harley, who's the host of Epic Mealtime, long hair, looks like a wrestler, he quit his job. He was a teacher. He's like, I'm done. I'm going to do YouTube videos. Every person said, you're stupid. And he realized this is an opportunity to get my message out there and build my own thing without having to go the traditional route, which I think is something we talked about before. You can create your own, you can do whatever you want. He had control over all of it, but you got to seize that opportunity.
I think there are some things that the methodologies can tell us now about what people like. Obviously, things like faces in posts get a lot more engagement than even landscapes and that kind of thing. And cats, as we know, get a lot of engagement, animals. But yet at the same time, when videos go viral, sometimes I can see why that worked. And other times I can see, I just don't get it. And I think that in a lot of ways, it's like computer dating. You can look at the profile and you can say, that person should be perfect for me. And then you meet them and it's like, no, but it should work. Why didn't it work? So in a lot of ways, I think that going viral is like falling in love. Sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it's just like, what's that about?
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of factors, and that's clickbait on YouTube. So when you put like a woman in a bikini with this engaging title, and you click on it, and it's like not exactly what you expected, though the video will tank because at the end of the day, the content has to be good. And we never. I don't think we've ever come up with some content saying, okay, that's going to be huge, that's going to be viral, everyone's going to want to watch that. Like we did a New Year's video a couple of years ago where our daughter, smashed a bowl on the ground.
We have that ready to play right now.
Oh, you want to play it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I did my homework. I made sure to
Sweet.
set that up.
It's like my...
Let's just wait a hot second.
There she is. Bam.
Let's get. Hold on, it's so much funnier with audio.
Sound. Yeah, the sound is there too.
Let's watch it like 12 more times.
And do you have the new one? Do you have like the last January one where she
the black
smashes
and
a
white?
bottle over my head? So every year we have to like step it up. I don't know what we're gonna do this year, but so this time around she smashed a bottle over my head, and I was like, "Okay, kids, this is a fake bottle. I will hit the ground. I will not move, but don't be concerned. I'm not dead. I just don't want to get back into the frame if it was a great shot." And a video like that, I thought, no one has ever seen a kid do that, so why don't we just do that? And that was it. There was no like, oh, this is gonna be huge, shared. On Vine, it got like 500,000 likes, like I don't know how many millions of views it has now. We never expected it.
I think for us, it's been a combination of creativity, pushing the envelope, like right to that line where we try not to cross the line, where people will question us as human beings, as parents, whether or not there's something mentally wrong with us, and not offending people, right? So like we think about things so much. Can this offend someone? Can this offend someone, in Russia? Can this offend someone in China? So we take all of that into account, but it's never, how can we make this go viral? This is, how can we make people laugh? How can we, make people feel like we're their parents? So we get a lot of that comments is like, those are the parents I want to be when I'm a parent. And not offending people, which in this day and age, like you can sneeze and offend someone. So that is very difficult to do. If you say bless you, well, I don't believe in God. So please
Don't say bless
that,
you
right?
to me.
Well, the other thing is, what was I going to say? So there are some things that you want to have in a video that will be shared. So the message has to be really simple. It has to be funny without sound, especially on Facebook, because it's coming down your feed and people aren't really listening to the video. It's just not going to be that intrusive. So it has to be hilarious without sound. That way, everyone all over the world can share it because they don't have to, listen to it. And the topic has to be somewhat relatable, but if it's not relatable, it has to be completely out, like just ridiculous. Like Casey Neistat snowboarding in New York City. That's ridiculous. It's crazy. There's nothing relatable about that video, yet it was huge. Right?
Great video, by the way.
Amazing video. So
I was just going to add to that, saying that our focus really is making good content. If we're happy with what we've done, hopefully it does well. But we know we have our fan base now, so it helps that we know some people are going to see it. But we want to make sure we're proud of the content we're making, and what we're making makes us laugh. Hopefully, it'll make our fans laugh.
When we're talking about viral content, do you think that is enough to build a substantial career? And if so, how do you go about leveraging that if that happens?
it's like being a DJ. Everybody wants to be a DJ, but 99% never leave their house. And have you seen Viners these days? A lot of them never leave their house, but there's only like 1% that actually make a career out of it. And that's basically what it is. Everyone loves to do it. It would be like the greatest thing to have all these fans. But in all actuality, it's only 1% that actually make it. I first said it was poker. Like, oh, it's like being a poker player, but then it's like, that's not a really good analogy, so let's change it to DJs.
Well, I think it looks really great from the outside. It's a lot of work. To get content every day, I know you guys can relate to this. You know, daily content, which is what everything's shifted to now. I mean, we do a weekly show, or 2 shows that are on Tuesday and Saturday, but we've started doing, daily vlogs, and we're looking to do more daily programming because people are hungry for content. Like, it's very... I think one of the number one things we talk to other creators about is how difficult it is. So a lot of them do work just for themselves. Like, they don't have a big team You know, they're editing their own videos, and they may get hundreds of millions of views. And it's like, you're filming yourself all day, you go home, you edit, it could be 3, 4 in the morning, get up, do it again. It can be exhausting. And so I think it looks really great from the outside. It seems simple, but it's actually a lot of hard work. And that's something that, you know, in anything, you know, it requires hard work, and it's not so easy just to be successful on YouTube or be successful on Vine or be, you know, it's hard. And 6-second videos, I have a lot of respect. That is a very difficult place to be funny because you have 6 seconds. You think it's easy to make it's hard. I can tell you right now, we try and make funny 6-second videos, and it's just not that easy.
That's the thing. And oh, sorry, I don't want to.
So yeah, at rabble.ca we have 13 part-time staff, and we probably have 50 to 100 contributors, and even then it's a constant grind, especially since we're tied in with the news cycle. So we're creating news content, and it's still hard, even when you have a large team. So I don't know how you people with your 1, 2, and 3 people shop do it, especially since you're doing video, which is really cumbersome.
Well, that's why we love it when we get comments like on Facebook saying, that wasn't funny, you have to do better. And we're like, you know, we're only 4 people, right? Like, we don't have writers. I don't have makeup people to make me look like Kim Kardashian. You know, we have children. I don't have like special tutors in the back. Like, literally, it's the 4 of us. We're doing the filming. He's doing the editing. You know, like, it's us. And we have managed to reach almost 10 million people on Facebook. And we're super proud of that because we've never paid a penny to Facebook to do that. And so we're proud of it. It's just the 4 of us. We don't have these amazing, super cool cameras and stuff. Like, this is really a home thing that we've done. And it was never meant to be viral, you know, and that's why we're known as the AB family and the monkeys, and no one knows really where we are or where we're from. And so, you know, we'll go to the airport in Toronto and they'll say, how was your stay in Toronto? We're like, it was lovely. Thank you. Yeah, and then we give them our Canadian passport. And we like it like that because we never meant to do this to be rich and famous. We really just wanted to put our videos out and make people laugh, and people really loved it. And so we're really thankful for that.
That idea to become rich and famous, that's not the right reason to get into making content. That's like the biggest thing we talk about. It's, if you're doing that, you're starting at the wrong place, and try and make content you want to make, because you might get stuck making it for years and years and years.
And people in news will never become rich unless you're the owners.
I'd like to touch upon just the editing factor. If we can start off with Papa and Mama B. How, for just producing and editing Vine videos, let's say that one over there, how long do you think that took to shoot and then edit? Just so people get an understanding of what that platform's about. Like approximate.
So we have business meetings just like any other company. Like, we will sit down at the kitchen table for a couple of hours on a Monday and drink our coffee and kind of go through some ideas. So he'll get some ideas, I'll have some ideas, and usually, yeah, I veto because as a woman, I think that we are very sensitive as to that might offend someone. You know, I'm really sensitive with that, and so I think that's another aspect why we've been so successful, especially with brands. Brands love us, like Disney, because they know that we're not going to appear on tomorrow's newspaper, you know, that we messed up big time. So I am very cautious of the language we use. You know, our emotions, can that be, you know, deemed inappropriate? And so from concepts to filming, you know, we're dealing with children. So we got like 10 minutes, their attention span, and then, can I go play video games? Sure. You know, here's a chocolate bar. Have some sugar. You know, can you just say this? And we nail it. And so with this, like, literally we went to the Dollarama to get the bowl. And everyone thinks, oh, was it real? That's the big wonder. You know, did she really smash it? No, it was a plastic bowl. It bounced off the ground. There was nothing to clean. But yeah, and then there's the editing. So that's entirely Papa B, who is the editor, and that can take up to, well, for something like that, it's really short, but for our...
For Vine videos, it's more the concept delivery that takes longer than the actual filming, especially like Mama B says, with the actual filming with kids, you don't want to waste their time. You don't want to sit there for hours filming with them. That wasn't the point of this. The point was to have fun together as a family. So filming, it's usually a 1-taker or 2-taker, just to see if we can find a better shot. But I would say total probably 6 hours to do a 6-second video. 6 hours of thinking and concept development and going to the Dollarama and getting stuff and then setting it all up, and then boom, we shoot for like 10 minutes, and then I'm upstairs with a 6-second Vine editing it. Vines usually take around no more than like half an hour to edit for me. But a YouTube video, some scenes take an hour, just maybe 5 or 6 seconds of a little shot could take about an hour just to edit. So, but on average, I'm taking about 2 hours to edit a video. The best ones are the challenge videos, though. Those ones are just like straight shot.
Justin, do you want to quickly touch upon some of the scenes that, I don't know if any of you have seen some of the episodes of Epic Mealtime, but, just the...
If you like bacon, you'll like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, for us, we've really evolved. I mean, we're a production house. We have about 10 employees. We actually have now dedicated editors. It used to be, Harley, who was the creator of Epic Mealtime, would do everything. Now we have a team. We sit down, we brainstorm. Our show is formatted, so it's a little different. We have to write, loose scripts. Plus, we have to make the food, which can take forever, depending on what we're making. If it's a giant burger or multiple burgers, it can take hours. So our chef is constantly trying new things. But we definitely needed more voices because we've been doing it for a long time. But some videos can take a couple days, just because we have so much footage and we're cutting in, we have like an intro, mid-tro. So, yeah, it's a little different than daily vlogs. Daily vlogs, I would say, are close to what you're saying, an hour or two. You want to find the funny stuff in the edit, and so hopefully that works out. But Epic Mealtime's kind of unique. It's, a little different than a lot of the content we see on YouTube.
This whole conversation, it gets back to the point that I made earlier on in the presentation about how editing is a new thing for new content creators. And it's like the kind of thing where that's something that takes a long time to learn. And that's why, new content creators need spaces in order to learn this kind of thing. Because, you guys, did you learn it by yourselves in your own...
Yeah, it was self-taught. And at this point, I can't hire someone to edit our videos because I'm afraid they're not going to capture the funny stuff. So I feel better if I just do it. I just sit down, I'll just close the door and do it for like a couple of hours, and I know I got the right spot. Because when you're filming, you kind of know that you want to use that in an edit later on. So you kind of sit the camera down and it's like, okay, let's just do this part. This is going to be pretty funny. But you can't explain that to an editor. It's just easier just to do it yourself. Just go.
So there are people out there who are self-taught who are really, really, if they picked it up really quickly. More people than others, like with new content creators, really, really do need a helping hand, and that's where working with communities of creators can be really, really valuable as well.
I was going to say, also, it doesn't, the great thing and the bad thing about the internet is it doesn't have to be amazing looking content. We don't film on the best cameras. We film on good cameras, and it looks great, and luckily things have changed to the point where, it's really easy to buy good equipment at a relatively low cost. But it's not like we're, the edit doesn't have to be amazing. There's some really bad content that gets millions and millions of views. It's about the content ultimately at the end of the day. If you're making good content, people will see it. And I think quality has improved, and that's something we need to strive for. But by no means is that the be-all, end-all for people when they're watching videos on YouTube.
It makes the content more relatable as well when it's produced by a mom and dad who grabbed a Canon camera and just kind of filmed it, because then whoever's watching it can say, well, I can do that too. I can just go in and get my own camera and start filming. It's true. Yeah, you can, as long as you have something that you want to share that you enjoy doing. That's great. Because when something's like way too overproduced, then you tend to get detached from what you're watching, and now it's become traditional media again, and you're like, well, I can't relate too much because, they must have all these fancy cameras, and so, yeah.
Except for Rocket Jump. I recommend checking that channel out. It's amazing. They do video effects. And Quarter Digital.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that piece. At Open Media, sometimes we'll spend like months planning out a certain video that we think is just going to be a really important kind of PSA video. We'll storyboard it, do all the kind of process you're supposed to do. We'll put it out, and then it just kind of doesn't go anywhere. We're like, and then like when we're kind of an interactive community, so someone will be like, hey, I just made this thing, and I think it's a good video, and I really believe in what you guys are doing. I made it for you guys, and we're like, that doesn't look that good. We'll throw it out there. Boom, like that's a viral video. We're like, why are we even here anymore?
But it's still a basic level of skills. We're not seeing the videos anymore where the camera is shooting up here and you can't even hear the sound that's coming out. And so there's still, even those videos which look raw now do not look raw compared to what they were like 10 years ago, believe me. So it's like there still is a basic level of skills that are needed, and skills training is also still really, really important.
I remember hearing something before about budgets for producing these videos. Knowing how cost-effective producing digital content can be, what do you think traditional media creators can learn from those who go on to either find complete internet fame or just develop a consistent production full-time online for almost no budget?
Forget whatever you learned in traditional media and just turn on the camera.
I can say something to that. I think that kind of treating yourself, just speaking for open media, like treating yourself as kind of a facilitator of a dialogue and a little bit less of a broadcaster, I think is something that some people, like in traditional media, I think a lot of people have learned that, but some people could still learn that. And I think, a lot of our success is really just listening to our community. Like, we'll put stuff out there, and then we'll literally like read all the emails that come in. Some of them aren't great. All the stuff that comes in on social media, and then we'll go back as a team and actually like break it down into themes and look at it and say like, yeah, this didn't work, or if we like changed, if we made this tweak, we could do better. And then we go and put it out there again, and then it actually works, and we recognize that person. And then that person who contributed that idea, and then that person is now like our best advocate. And so I think, that kind of like media as a conversation is something that is different in the new media world.
Yeah, to add to that, I'd say, fan engagement is so important. I mean, we spend so much time, the great thing about being on all these platforms, whether it be Facebook, I mean, we're on any big platform, we're on there communicating with our fans, and it sort of goes on to that point. I mean, people can talk to us. Like, we're attainable. We're in our Twitters, we're in everywhere talking to our fans, good and bad. I mean, it's not great always going into the comment section, but generally people are, want to be able to have that interaction with you. And that's the great thing about these platforms. You can,
One of the things that Steve brought up and that you just expanded upon, Justin, is one of the words that Steve used was the word we. And I think we have this idea in media now, like we can produce media in our own basement and that kind of thing, but it's like there's a whole other way of doing media, which harkens back to the older way, which is community-based engagement. And it's like where you're talking about fans, we can also substitute the word, people, well, I don't know what one word, but people in our community. And community-based media is something that is just as important to me as like the more, quote, professional podcasting that I do. And the thing is, there is nothing more exciting than working with someone who says, wow, I didn't know that I could do that. It has to do with confidence building. It's not just about giving people a camera. It's about helping them develop the confidence in their own voice. And often, especially when we're talking about, diverse communities and giving voice to marginalized voices, which is something that, we all need to do, then it's like, it's being part of a group of producers who create together is tremendously empowering. And so that's why I'm part of a movement to help establish community media centers across the country that combines traditional community TV, community radio, online, and also gaming. And it's not just about the product. The product comes through the process, and it's the act of working together is a way of creating a different kind of content that is engaging because you've engaged with people in the production process. And also the whole role of local, since we've started working on with the internet, is really, really starting to diminish, and getting back that sense of our local community and people we see every day is something which is really, really important to new content creation as well.
I think there's an interesting piece there where there's kind of the basic digital infrastructure and the skills, but then there's also the social infrastructure, which I think is really what you're talking about and what we could use more in this country, which is just people being able to work together and bounce ideas off each other and learn together. Because I don't know about the other people on the panel, but certainly I benefited a lot from having a peer group of people who were just testing this stuff out and trying to figure it out, and us bouncing ideas off each other, whether it be online, but also like in real space. So going out for a beer after a long day and being like, hey, I just tried this, it tanked, it didn't work. Nobody likes this. No one likes this, and then being like, no, don't worry, that happened to me last week. Like, and so that piece of kind of social infrastructure that I think you're trying to build would be like a huge value to the industry, but also the country.
Well, that's the thing. Mama B spends most of her time communicating with our, we call them family members. We don't call them followers or fans. We call them family members because they're part of our family. And I don't know if you want to add to that, but a ton of time commenting and.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between traditional media where, like a Brad Pitt or an Angelina Jolie, like you would see someone like that and it would blow your mind because you would have no idea how to contact them. They're so far gone from you as a human being. Whereas, I'm cooking and I get a message pop up and I'll reply and they're like, oh my God, Mama B just replied. I'm like, I'm just making pasta sauce in my kitchen. Like I'm not as glamorous as you think, but I think that's what it is I try to reply to as many people as possible. Obviously we get in like 200 messages, I reply to 20, then we get in another 200 and so it's impossible, but I think that's the difference is with traditional media is you don't get those responses. Like I would die if J-Lo replied to me, right? Which she never will, but I will try to reply to at least a few dozen kids so that they see, wow, like they're normal people just like me. I can do what they do, right? Like when Justin Bieber came out and we're like, wow, anybody can be famous. We are all talented, right? Seriously though, like we all have a talent. We can all be famous for something. It's just a matter of using your creativity, putting it out there, and people will love you for something. Like I really believe that, it starts when we have children, when kids are developed to be creative. You look at children and we try to make them into doctors and lawyers and you have to do this. Whereas if you actually just watch your kid and see what they're good at and what makes them happy, and hopefully in the future they can actually make a living from it, like that's the gold right there. And that's what we try to do with our kids is we don't try to box them into being what society says, you have to make money, grow up and make money. How about you grow up and be happy, right? Be creative, see what you love to do, and the world will probably love you for that, right?
I think that there's, whenever I hear the word star or I hear the word fame, it's like I get just a little bit uncomfortable because it's like, does that mean then if some people are famous, they're better than others? They've had exposure, and I think it's great the people who have engaged with many people around the world because it shows they're doing something that people want to hear. But I mean, fame can happen in really, really in smaller contexts. I'm thinking of when I was in Nairobi about 10 years ago working on a documentary, I was invited by a young woman from a community radio station to visit her home in the Corrigacho slums. We hear about Kibera. Corrigacho is the next one down. It's almost as big and almost as horrible. So she told us, she said, well, I'm going to wear my T-shirt so that people know who I am. And it was amazing. Here's this 20-year-old woman. People are coming and approaching her from all over the place and saying, Leah, oh my God, it's somebody from the radio station. And it's like their community it's pretty amazing, 250,000 people within about 6 city blocks. But she was famous too, but she wasn't really hitting the mass numbers around the world. And so I'm always wondering what the emphasis on fame in the internet age is doing to our communities and to a person's sense in the smaller environment where they work and live. And we're also looking right now about how do we preserve local news and local content and how do we engage with the people in our communities in the traditional media. And so I wonder where the balance is between thinking, oh, I'm on the internet and so many people are listening to me, but I'm in a smaller environment and people think I'm important here too. So it's like the fame thing, I'm very happy for the people who have become famous, but it's like, what's the other part of that piece?
It's interesting from what you're saying, because I remember reading yesterday something about Twitter, how social influencers there are actually, fans are more connected with them more than their own best friends. They see, they trust them more. So I thought that was kind of like a shocking shocking stat based on that.
I was going to add to what you were talking about before. The younger generation, and I see it because I go to all these, sort of industry events where, all these kids congregate to see, you guys, us, other channels, and we look at people like J-Lo, whoever, as unattainable to talk to. This young generation are like, they look to YouTube or whoever online creators, that's their J-Lo. Like that, those people like Jenna Marbles or the EB family, or that's what they're trying to attain now. Like it's very, for me, like I missed it. Even I'm too old for that stuff. Like but you see it when you go here how crazy they are for these creators, and they can talk to them, and it's pretty amazing. You see some really amazing things. Like we saw a girl, she was crying. She's like, I can't believe I'm seeing you guys. We took pictures. Like, these creators, I have to say, most of them are really great about their fans. I mean, they spend hours at meetups. Like, it's insane. Like, they, and these kids are crazy for them, but that's what's attainable to them now. They want to become, I don't want to use the word famous, but they want to, they want to go on YouTube and make content. And I think that's a great thing. They can go and make content if they want to. It can be good and bad, but I think ultimately it's a great thing.
We were at a show with Miranda Sings in Toronto last year, and I think security wasn't ready for the fans because they're like, oh, she's famous on YouTube, and we're just going to do a show here at the Sony Center for Performing Arts.
The people at Sony had no idea who Miranda Sings were, and they had no idea who we were, right? So you have like a bunch of, like suits running the show, and they're like, whatever. And then about, 500 14-year-old girls came in, and they rushed the stage, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose, and stuff got serious really fast because they realized, like, oh my gosh, like, look at how much they love them, and it was amazing to see.
Steve, how's it going?
Hi. Good, great.
I'd like to throw this one at you, and everyone else, feel free to chime in after. Steve, at Open Media, you see the internet as an open place that empowers people to build a more connected and collaborative world. But let's think about democratization for a moment. And how do you think democratized content creation is good for society as a whole?
Well, I think that it empowers people, and it shows people that the world is malleable, which I think is like a really important thing. Not just for creativity and the kind of the media industry, but also for democracy. People thinking that, hey, I can like change the world, and so when they can literally just like do a thing and it goes online and it works, and they can share it and connect with other people. That's a really like good daily lesson for everyone to have that they might not have had before in that practice. And I also think that it enables people to bring up issues that help advance our society. Like women didn't have a right to vote. We had slavery. Like someone needed to challenge those ideas. And so having this kind of free expression online means that people can advance issues and kind of advance our society. But also, like I said before, it's also the greatest training ground for citizens and also for media makers. And I think in the 21st century, we need like the largest kind of talent pool that we can have. So I think it's also kind of essential for that. So it's a good example of it's good for the kind of culture industry and media industry, but it's also really important for an open society. And I think the issue is, for me, is will we have government decisions that enable that? Will we have, because there's certain decisions that are made through the government that will enable that thing or that will clamp it down. And so will we have kind of more permissive copyright so that people can experiment online? So I gave my example of I made Remix Media, and that was my start. If that was illegal, if the copyright rules were stronger, as some would like to make them, then I would not have been able to get my start. Having fast, affordable internet is really crucial, and like we can have this discussion here in a certain way, but there's people in other places, in other areas of this country, and other maybe even areas in the city who don't have that level playing field. Mm-hmm. That's also important. And then the last thing I would say is funding. So I think that it's important that funding goes to creators and open platforms. I wish that more support was going into the people like here who are kind of upstarts. But we have a huge amount of media concentration in this country, which kind of makes those barriers to entries much tighter than they need to be. It's much, you can throw something online, but to actually like get into the industry is quite difficult. If you look at the Canadian Media Fund, most of that money is going directly to the major kind of telecom companies. CTV gets 150, I think it's 150 million a year just handed to them. I think that those media funds should go to the people on, not myself, but the other people on this panel and the upstarts, and that so I think that there are important kind of policy issues. Not to be the boring policy guy on the panel, but that's what happens. Sorry.
No, absolutely.
But I think there's for this open internet and the possibilities of the internet to really be kind of embraced in Canada, and I think we really need to. We need to make these decisions as a society.
Yep.
Yeah, what Steve was saying also amplifies the whole idea that in a democratic society, empowered voices are entirely necessary for that functioning of democracy. And we talk about the low voting rate, and that's what happens when people feel like their voice doesn't count. I used to say, and still say in community media, it's like the microphone is a magic wand, provided you talk close enough to it, by the way. So anyway, but it's like I have seen so many times people come into stations and community TV stations and go, well, I just want to shelve CDs because I don't have anything to say. I don't know what I could possibly say that the world would care about. 2 or 3 months later, that person is on the air doing a really wonderful show and just building confidence, and that's something that that access to the internet brings, but being engaged in one's community and saying, hey, I'm important too. And I think that's really important to develop new content on the internet too, because there are a lot of voices we just don't hear from because they just don't have the confidence in what they have to say, and that's why they need community.
Yep. Justin, this one's for you, man. Looking at Epic Mealtime, it has over 7 million subscribers on YouTube. It's basically right now a cooking show monster. And if you look at it in hindsight, when it first started out, what do you think really struck a chord with audiences?
You got to think back to 2010 and sort of, I think we offered something really unique. I think the whole food culture was changing and food programming was changing, and what we did was just so different. We like to say it's so dumb, it's smart. Like you're taking, I don't want to offend anyone. We're taking bacon and just putting it all over everything. I mean, everyone loves bacon. I think it's universal, except for my girlfriend. She's a vegetarian, unfortunately for her. And I think it was just a unique show at that point in time, and really, it was just so different. It's almost like, I don't know if you remember those websites where you go and look at like really crazy pictures of like food creations, like way back. You go, I can't remember the name of the site. I used to go to one and look. It'd be like a donut with a burger in it or something like that.
This is why you're fat.
Yeah, like stuff like that. So like imagine something like that. That just yeah, it really was. But like we apply that to video. And so.
That's why I filter him.
You tell that is exactly what I was thinking about.
That was the actual name of the place,
yeah.
so the website. Sorry,
but
I didn't come up with that website. By the way.
But that's what we
that's
basically
what we used
took.
to peruse before Epic Mealtime.
I'd be like, that's cool. Like I like donuts and burgers. I'll eat that. And so we took that and sort of gave it our voice. And I have to say, Harley is a pretty unique voice and very forceful and very funny. I think so. He was just a group of guys just having a good time, and it's something I don't think anyone had seen before. And bacon, I don't know. Yeah, it was just, we capitalized just every week. We haven't missed a Tuesday in 5 years.
Damn.
So, and now we have another show, which is Handle It, which is a instructional cooking show, which is a little more toned down. One guy in the kitchen. Still in the vein of Epic Mealtime, I'd say it's like an extension of Epic Mealtime, but much more, attainable. Our meals can cost over $1,000, depending on what we're making it with. We'll buy Cristal sometimes just because we're being stupid, but yeah. So yeah, it's gone it's really evolved, but it started with just the idea of having fun with your friends, eating lots of crazy food, and having a good time.
In your opinion, do you think that the show could have been as popular to begin with if it started off on a traditional platform?
I think it could have been it's it's very difficult to think back to that. I do believe it could have, I think it was unique enough at that point in time that you could take that idea and apply it to traditional, but we've done traditional stuff, and obviously there's a lot more voices involved, there's a lot more steps involved, it requires, creatively you have to not give up a lot, but there's just more people involved in the process, and just to get things done, requires a lot more. Now we can just take a concept and make a video and put it up, and we talk about it. We like you said, like we think about it. We think about the reaction. We think about our fans, but we don't have to answer to 10 other people or get budgets approved or whatever.
And I think that's what it is it's the budgets and the money and playing with scared money. And then if this one doesn't work out, then we just blew $50 million. And how am I going to come up with another idea? They're not going to have any money. They're not going to fund me. When we create content, it's really relaxed because there is no budget. We just turn on, it's just time for us. We just turn on the camera and we're relaxed. So we have more time to really think about the concept and nothing else. And then we worry about filming it and editing after, and then whether people will like it or not. But it's really about that. But from what I understand in traditional media is that there's just so much planning, and there's so many meetings, and there's so much money, and there's so much blah, 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 blah. And then this is how much is left over for actual content creation. And so it's kind of backwards on the internet, where you really need to focus only about the content and not worry about anything else. And if there's a little bit left, then fine, you can have a meeting. We could eat that day, we're fine. But that's the thing, like, that's why, because when you had mentioned about $150 million for CTV, and I'm thinking,
I'll take some of that.
I'll take some. All I need is like $2,000 for a drone. That's all I want right now. Yeah. And that's serious, because it's like, well, what would I do with $150 million on our channel if it was given to us? I'd get really nervous. We probably wouldn't be able to create any content, because now we have to answer to people. And I think that at this point we're just like, oh, I really like, I want a drone, so I'm gonna go get a drone, and that's our budget. Oh, I broke my camera, I dropped it on the kitchen, whatever counter. I need to buy another camera. I mean, those are our budget talks.
And if we had $154 million, we could fund community media centers in many, many, many communities across this country. So it's all a relative kind of thing, and we want that $150 million too.
That's true.
We'll all
Or
take
is it
it.
150?
Yeah.
Oh,
My
yeah.
hand's up. I'll take it right now.
I think that editing is probably something that should be the focus, is like really teaching creators how to edit, the shortcuts, how to make it right. Because I speak to creators now. I'll text a creator who is now one of the most respected YouTubers in the world, and I won't say his name just because of his response is hilarious. It's like, when you're importing a video in Final Cut, should it be optimized or proxy media? And he honestly comes back and says, dude, I have no idea. And he's like the biggest YouTuber.
He's like, go check YouTube.
Yeah,
There's
he's
a
like,
video
dude,
that
just
shows you how to
YouTube
do
it. I
that.
have no idea what are you talking
Yeah.
about. And if you watch this person, you're like, wow, this person must be incredible, right?
And that's
we
a
just don't
limit of
know.
self-training as well. I mean, I'm working right now on a video art project the OAC is funding, and I do sound art. I'm working with a video producer, but I'm trying to do some of my own, and I'm constantly got him on the phone saying, Stefan, what does this mean? And so it's like, yeah, I mean, I could learn it myself, but it's going to take me 5 times as long. So training centers are really, really important, and people not working in isolation unless they want to do things really slow.
I will say it has gotten, it does cost us money to make our show because we have to buy food, and we do employ people, so it's a little more costly. And I have to say, monetization it's definitely, there you can make money. It's not, I think you have to be at a certain level in order to do that. There's definitely lots of strides being made in ways for creators, even smaller creators, who have maybe 250,000 or 500,000 subscribers, to find a way to make enough money. Because to be honest, if you have 200,000 subscribers based on your views, you really can't make a sustainable living doing that. I mean, maybe you can, depending on being creative or selling merchandise, but it's not so simple. But we're getting there, and the budgets are getting bigger a lot. With YouTube Red, I don't know. There's a lot more opportunity to do bigger productions, but we still have a ways to go to make sure everyone can sustain what they're doing on there.
And from the business side, before we started doing stuff online, I came from a marketing background, market research. So when we first realized that we could actually make a business out of this, I SEO'd our family's website, searchable for our content. There's demographic data, there's branded examples, there's ways to contact us. I had rate cards all put together. We knew what our pricing was per video. So I had all that set up. So there has to be sort of a professional business side to that a lot of creators actually don't have. So we do have that edge when we work with brands and big agencies, because we have all that to the table right now. So that is probably another piece that creators should learn, is the business side and how to market themselves properly. Because most creators, if you search for a certain person's name, there won't be a website that has their demographic data and their branded examples and all the stuff that an agency is actually looking for. So.
And branded content's a big part of what we do, for sure. I know, that's a big part of how we, are able to make our show and bring more people in and grow, and, that's definitely part of it, part of the equation.
Yeah, I think we definitely didn't have the kind of these marketing points to start with, but at this point now, like I really believe in that point of needing to have those skills, and like maybe that's part of what the community media centers can teach, is like how to reach people, and how to connect with the audience that's out there that actually wants to find you but can't. But I know now, like we A/B test a lot of our materials. Like we get pretty sophisticated with targeting so we have a mailing list of about 500,000 people, and so we'll send out, I don't want to get too much into the geekery of it, but we'll send out an email to like 10,000 people, and who we've seen before care about, let's say, free expression issues online, and then we'll look at that and we'll be like, nope, not working, forget that, try something else. Or we'll send out 3 different versions to 10,000 different people, and then we'll also learn by looking backwards, by seeing like, okay, like this person reacted to these types of videos or these types of materials in the past. We don't want to like try and like push like this privacy video on them, because we've tried that 3 times. They don't like that. So there's a whole kind of like marketing and reaching your audience piece that's really important.
This one's for the AB family. Your channel, your brand, has over 3 million followers just on Vine. I saw 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. I think that people should realize that's more of a following than Canadian TV shows get on a traditional platform. It's amazing. When you think about your journey to reach discoverability for your brand, what was that like?
It was, we have no idea. we basically just wanted to make funny videos that we would laugh at first, and then if one more person liked it, that was a bonus, because we didn't have, nothing was on the line for us. We just wanted to have fun and laugh. I mean, we've always been making funny little YouTube videos, and now it's a little series on our channel now where we go back to our old funny videos that we've never posted when they were babies. We never had that thought. Like, we're just like, let's just make funny videos and laugh, and let's just do things that we would normally ever do, like Kids Bop, where my daughter raps to like Wu-Tang Clan and smashes a bottle over my head for New Year's. Like, these are funny things that I laugh at. And when the New Year's video came out, I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. That's what it's about for us. Like, we enjoy our own content, and that's all it was.
And I think for us, what we found was there was a lack in the world for happy families, so like family dynamics who have fun together and laugh together, right? Couples who get along, like blows your mind. Husbands and wives who love each other and are attracted to each other and have fun together. And parents who laugh with their children, and children that laugh with their parents. Like, that's lacking. Isn't that crazy that we live in a world where people watch us and they're like, wow, what an awesome family. You can have an awesome family too, who has fun and makes the world laugh. And so we somehow, I don't know how, and that's why I was like, well, I have no idea, because we kind of hit the nail on the head where, we have this dynamic that people love, and we were watching the numbers go up, like you said, 3 million on Vine, and when he started on Vine, it was under his real name. And he just jumped from like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 200,000. And at one point I'm in the kitchen and they're making a video and I'm like, is there anything you can do with the kids that doesn't involve 300,000 people? And he's like, actually, we're like at 1 million now. And that's when I'm like, all right, we need to go anonymous, shut this down. I don't want anyone to know where we live, because it kind of freaked me out as how fast we were growing. And so, I really wanted to protect the kids as a mother. I didn't want people to know where our kids go to school and stuff like that. But I just think that for us, it was a lot of luck, and it was people hungry for family content that was safe, that people can allow their children to watch.
Absolutely. Victoria, this is for you. You're coming from a world of podcasting, which is definitely another hot, medium to produce content for, and it's allowed content creators to develop their own programming. But how do you think that podcasting has evolved in this ever-changing digital environment?
Well, First of all, I'm really, really delighted that now I can get on buses. I actually hear people talk about the podcasts they're listening to. That was not the case in 2005. I would say to people, oh, I'm doing a podcast, and I would give them the details. They say, well, what's a podcast? And I would tell them it's basically a radio program for the internet, which is about as close as I could get. And they say, oh, but I don't have an iPod. And then it's like, well, you can listen to it online. So it's like, it was just so basic. And then all of a sudden, it was actually the creation of Serial, the Blockbuster program down in the States that really put us on the map. And so about 2-3 years ago or so, I started hearing people talk about the podcasts they're listening to. So that has really, really changed. One thing that I've always felt has always held us back in podcasting is we haven't had that one app that everybody goes to. Like for video, you have YouTube. For us, we started out on iTunes in, it was 2006, 2007. Anyway, but iTunes is like this monster site where you have practically everything. It's very, very hard to find specific things without, like there was one time with one version of iTunes, which they revise every day, it seems like. There was one that didn't even have podcasts on it. So then it's like, where did the podcast link go? How do I find them? So it's like, that's a discoverability issue. And then the other thing that's happened right now too is people are starting to listen more on mobile apps, and so you have to have this whole proliferation of individual apps that you have to put every podcast on. And so and plus our main website at Rabble, we have the podcast network on our site, and we like to drive people to the site because that increases our stats and that kind of thing. But the thing is, that's not how people are listening anymore. So it's put pressure on us to develop the site and all of these other apps, and then I'm getting to the point where I'm having to go to Overcast and SoundCloud and all these places we could post them and get aggregate stats from each individual one and add them up manually and everything. So I wish that we had a YouTube that everybody goes to, but that's not happening, and I think that's one of the challenges with podcasts. But in terms of the growth and development of podcasts, it's really wonderful to read. Like, I get a lot of my information from Pew Research in the States that does a podcasting report every year and has since about 2005. And it was great to see in the early days, we went up and up and up, plateaued, and I think not unusually, that was the year that YouTube was released and podcast listening just flattened out. But now it started rising again, and it's like we certainly don't have as big an audience as videos do, but the thing is the level of engagement with podcasts is really, really, really high. And the quality, it's like we're getting a lot more, a lot better produced podcasts, but we still have the ones which people can still do it from their basements. It's just getting listeners to those podcasts now in the thousands, which is what people are needing to monetize them and what we want for our audience, for our audience numbers. That's really hard because there are so many, and it's not a different problem than video has, but it's the discoverability for us because that one app that pushes everything out just hasn't been invented yet.
We're running short on time right now. Justin, I know that you have to get out of here pretty soon, so I want to just wrap up very quickly by having each of you give a brief sentence about the key to online success from a personal programmer perspective. Just super brief. Victoria, you want to start off with you?
Sure. I still think my best productions happen when I'm working with a team. And I do think that community media is a way for people to develop their new emerging voices and create new content, and also to work within a social context. And I think that that's really, really important.
Steve?
I would say try to crowdsource your content when you can and build an engaged community, and kind of do authentic engagement. So don't just focus on eyeballs and data points, but actually building relationships, because those are just really, really valuable in a bunch of ways that I think several of us have talked about. And I guess the last thing I would say is, I think we've been talking a lot about kind of what we've done in some of the struggles, but I think that we should really try to imagine what could be, with some of the stuff that you've been talking about. If we had these kind of community media centers across the country, imagine when you folks started your project, or when I did, that we had that. And so I think it's important to focus on like what we can do now, but also like just imagine what could be if we kind of had the right policies in place.
I would say be willing to fail and try content. I mean, I can tell you the truth. We tried other things. You know, it didn't just happen overnight. I think there's a misconception that it's just gonna happen for you. You know, be willing to fail and make videos that may not do well, but hopefully you find something that hits, and when you do, capitalize.
Yeah, I'd say just be your own biggest fan of your own content and have as much fun as possible and take risks, because at the end of the day, you just have to shoot whatever you enjoy out into the world and see what happens.
Be your authentic, creative, weird, and silly self, and don't worry about what people think.
Okay. I think this is time to open up to audience Q&As. If anybody has any questions for Justin, because I don't know if it is for timing, if you want to...
I got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. We're on the clock. Anybody have any questions for Justin? Yes. No?
Hi. Hello, Justin. Right here. Hi. Just a question. You said that the owner, the creator of your project, quit his job and basically, you know, capitalized on the timing and
Yeah.
went for it. What exactly did that entail for him to do that and to monetize a project that seemed to be working?
He set a threshold in his mind of a certain amount of views to get in a week, and he said, if this happens, I'm going to quit my job. He was a teacher. You know, he was a substitute teacher, and basically, you know, I have to say, he had told me a year previous that, you know, you can make a living on YouTube. I was like, really? You know, I was like, okay. I was like, I've never really understood that. This is in 2010, you know, and there were some big channels then, you know, a couple. And I think he hit his threshold and was like, all right, screw it, I'm going to do this. And the hardest part was getting money together to do it, because, you know, it costs $500 to make some meals. You know, it's not, you know, that does have money that he didn't have at that point, but he sort of put everything into it. He was making videos already, like whether it be, you know, I shouldn't say, he'll get mad if I start talking about it, but making other types of videos. But this one hit his threshold, and he was like, yeah, and he was like, exactly, kind of like what you said. He just did it, and it was really like, it was a pretty, I kind of witnessed the whole thing. It was pretty amazing, and the money wasn't necessarily there right away, but we were fortunate. You know, we garnered a lot of attention really early, and there were ways to monetize at that time. You know, we were getting a lot of views, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of sharing. So, you know, I have to say there's definitely luck. We were lucky at that point, but it's really changed now. I mean, you can definitely make a living, you know, if you reach a certain amount of people, for sure. Like, no doubt you can make a living making videos on YouTube. So that's a good thing now.
I'm Kathy Edwards with the Canadian Association of Community Television. I was really interested that this session was on, because there is a perception that anyone can make it big just because we have the internet, and you've shown that it's true. And I started out just wanting to be a filmmaker, so it's a great platform for me too. But me personally, picking up on some of the points that Victoria had about the need for confidence for some people can't necessarily grab a camera and self-publish, and often it's about confidence. And the two things that sort of committed me from just wanting to be a filmmaker to working in community media is I worked with a group of 15-year-old recovering street prostitutes in Calgary a number of years ago, who came in with, you know, a sort of a social worker who was looking for things for them to do. And they came to the community television channel, and we trained them to use little Hi8 cameras. And they didn't want us watching what they were doing, but we taught them how to use the cameras. They disappeared and went into their street environments and made a series of documentaries about their experiences. And one of the girls, only one of them, had the focus and tenacity to be able to learn to edit, because the others had so many other sort of problems going on in their lives. And she told me that it was the first thing in her life she'd ever completed. And those series of videos went on and won awards, but that group could have never done it without sort of a supportive infrastructure. They could have posted on YouTube maybe, but it was a confidence issue. Were people going to laugh at them? Were people going to call them sluts? Like, for the people that are living the problems in our communities, they often don't have the infrastructure or the education or the ability to just stand up and take those hits and those risks. They need that collaborative environment to use this wonderful thing called the internet. So, I'm glad that there was an interesting balance on this panel between the people that are taking advantage of these opportunities, but also an awareness that sometimes you need an infrastructure to take advantage of great opportunities and, fighters to keep the platforms open like Steve.
Just I'm going to interrupt for a second. Justin, I think you got to get going now. So we're going to give a round of applause for
Thanks.
Justin Lynch for being here today. Thank you very much. Great having you on the panel. Safe trip home. Yes.
I just wanted to speak to,
Go for it,
that
absolutely.
comment, and I do get a lot of messages, especially from young girls, and so I try to make it a priority to reply to especially young people. But a lot of young women say, "Mama B, I can't believe what you do. Like, I would be so embarrassed." And I said, you know what? If anything, because I believe that with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. And so when we started to become big, I started to think, what am I going to use this platform for? And so I have been a feminist through and through my whole entire life, and I want to use my voice, especially for young girls. And what I tell them is, there are special moments in our lives where you have to take a chance, and it doesn't matter what you look like. And when you miss those moments, like those moments could potentially change the path of your life. And so that's what I try to really tell girls, and especially like we have so many broken children growing up and becoming broken adults. And these broken adults are so worried about, what are people going to think? Like my own friends are like, Rosanna, how do you do the things that you do? And I'm like, because I've never cared what people thought. I've always known who I am, and I'm true to myself, and I'm secure in myself, even from a child. Like I was a child, I remember, like covered from head to foot in the winter, and it was a cool thing to be outside in a t-shirt. And I never understood that. I wanted to be covered, and my friends were like, you look like a grandmother. I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm warm, right? Like, I never understood that concept of making other people happy. Like, I was always true to me. And so for young girls especially, I want to show them, like, take the chance. Don't worry about what people think. And you have to have the courage. Like, you have to put yourself out there if you want to be great. You have to take the chance.
So great, you can come work with us in community media in your spare time.
Yay!
She still needs to make a few videos for us, though, so you're going to have to wait.
Yes, back there.
I stole the microphone back here. This question is for Steve. I'm developing content that's bridging the gap from hospital to home. There's a huge gap, and people are going into a tailspin after a diagnosis. So I'm coming from a traditional background of broadcast and moving into a digital space. And my concern, because it's with healthcare, and I thought you might be able to comment a little bit on it, of what can you put in place for the legalities of when you're starting to ask poignant questions that are challenging policy? How can you protect yourself, or is it the Wild West of open source media that we're dealing with? I was just looking for some input.
Do you mean like challenging health policies and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's in a positive tone, but it's telling stories of people who are experiencing the gaps in healthcare, but then also reaching out to people like of how not to piss your surgeon off after surgery. Don't wreck his good work. So trying to really shine a light on the aftercare process that hospitals just don't have time for. And so because you're bringing experts in, as opposed to broadcasting yourself, like other panelists, that you're actually bringing in people and you're getting into a little bit of a gray zone on the legal front.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a lawyer.
I won't hold you to it. I was just wondering if just
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the policy, yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean for us, every now and then we worry about that because sometimes we're kind of on the opposite side. Like when I was talking about CTV, they're owned by Bell, and sometimes we don't agree with them, and they're a very large company, and so there's things they could do. But I think for us, I mean, we just make it kind of make it so that it would be a PR disaster for them to do that. Like I think because there's legal gray zones. I mean, we try to be careful. Like we don't name names. We try to avoid that sort of thing. And now and then, if we're really doing something really high profile, we'll like reach out to lawyers and say, listen, like look at this. Like, is this going to be a problem? And they'll give us advice. So I think that's good if you're at that level. But apart from that, I would just what we do is we just try and build as much of a community as possible, and to tell as authentic and powerful stories as possible, so that if people wanted to go after us, it would just be a huge PR disaster. Like for that one example for us, like some people have said like, hey, like, I'm just gonna pick that one company. They don't like you guys a lot. You guys might be costing them a lot of money with some of the things you're advocating for, talking about $150 million and taking it away from them. But the thing is, like, if they ever actually like went after us in some sort of legal pursuit, that would be like the best fundraising bonanza that ever happened to us, because we would go out to 500,000 people and tell that story, and we would more than make the money up for the lawsuit. So if you can set yourself up that way.
Yeah, it's great insight, just because, as you were saying before, so much of the budget in broadcast is often, it's reverse engineered, right? So much is going towards the development before you make anything, as opposed to creating a content machine where you have this constant dialogue. So that's a great insight, thank you.
I worked with a video company where we did a series of programs commissioned by a hospital, and it was about women's experiences of coming into the hospital, what to expect and that kind of thing. And I think the really important thing is, if you can, I mean, if there's a policy issue where you have to take issue with what the hospital does, then that's something to talk to your lawyer about. But the thing is, working to make sure that the people who you're involved with are fully consenting and not getting any shots of people in the shot that have not consented. And also, if you can work with the hospital doing this, then they can help set things up. So the research beforehand and the consent and, it all, that's what smooths the way, I think, for a good video like that.
I think that's all the time we have for questions for today. But we want to thank our panelists for speaking today and this morning. Victoria, Steve, and the AB family, thank you very much. Thank you for attending. We hope you have a good day.
Thanks.
10h35.